So anyway, so back to this. Gematria is complete nonsense, and it's easily falsifiable. And actually, Zachary, you're going to do me a great favor tonight. You're going to falsify it for us, and I get to watch you do it. I do this to what me and Jim Bob refer to as, quote, Gematria tards all the time. Well, you seem like a decent enough fella, and I'm not going to take the evening to insult you, unless, of course, you start the insults first. Anyway, it's pretty simple. The object here is that math is a universal. If it is universal, it should be able to be applied universally. He says that numbers don't lie, but numbers lie all the time. For instance, have you ever taken a measurement of something and been wrong? Oh, maybe you were off by a half inch, you were off by a quarter inch, right? Because it requires an interpreter. So how do we know that you're interpreting these numbers correctly? How do we falsify it? In other words, how do we falsify? Like, what can I compare to make sure that we could actually falsify this in a scientific way? Well, you don't have anything. You have nothing. You have a cipher, right? Gematria, in fact, there's multitudes. I have the Gematrinator here. I don't know. You're probably aware of the Gematrinator.
It was built in my honor, just if you don't know.
Yeah, the Gematrinator. Okay, the Gematrinator has multiple different Gematrination machinations in which we can use. Interestingly enough, though, you also claim that this can only be done in English. What about Old English?
I did not claim that.
Oh, okay, so it could be done in Chinese, Japanese, dirty knees. Look at these. It can be done in all those. It can be done in all those languages.
I specialize in English. I learned about it from a 1926 publication by Manly P. Hall. But just to understand, it didn't start in English. Again, this was part of Hebrew, Aramaic,
ancient Greek. All right. Hang on. I wasn't actually asking a question, right? It's my opening statement. I'm just pointing this out. So just very quickly, I'm just going to reclaim a little bit of time there. Here's your history of failed predictions, Zachary. Obama's assassination on August 29th, 2014, total failure. Assassination on March 15th, 2015, total failure. You then predicted Obama's assassination October 19th, 2015. Never happened. You predicted the Obama or Trump assassination around 2016 U.S. election. Wrong again. Trump assassination on some unspecified date, right? And then you give a bunch of numbers to go with all these. I don't know why. It's like a weird Illuminati card game that you have. Super Bowl 49 will be the Colts versus the Lions. Yep, you were wrong about that too. You're wrong about 2021 March Madness, right? You've basically been wrong about most of the more credible predictions that I can find you making. Tonight, I'm going to ask you to make a credible prediction and actually back that credible prediction up by giving us specificity. I don't believe that you're capable of giving specificity because I believe that you follow a very traditional mantra of a con artist, which is that you use vagaries, and it is through vagueness that you trick people. And so the second I can get specificity out of you, it now creates a claim which is falsifiable, which is why I don't believe that you'll be able to give us any type of specific claim, thus falsifying your own position. Now, to give you a distinction, if I make a claim as a political pundit, it is true that I definitely could be wrong. But what my claim is as a political pundit is I'm utilizing experience, intuition, and other various social senses in order to come to conclusions, including inductive reasoning. So if I'm wrong, right? Now, it could hit my credibility, I suppose, if I'm wrong too often in predictions in the political arena. I think that that's fair. It would just show that maybe I have bad instincts or bad intuition or very bad inductive reasoning. You don't really have that luxury, though, because you have what's called a predictive model, in this case, Gematria. You need to actually specifically be correct about the things that you predict in a very specific way, and you need to be right about them more than you're wrong about them for this to actually be useful and not just left up to chance. So what I'd like to do is demonstrate that tonight when we open up the debate, and I'm ready to go when you are.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate both of you being here this evening. And as a kind reminder to the viewers, chatters, we will do about 2 hours worth of debate. Then we will go into closing statements, read and respond to super chats. Then we will open up the panel for the open panel dumpster fire. Gentlemen, the floor is open.
Yeah, so if you don't mind, I can open up the line of inquiry very quickly by just asking you a basic question. Do you agree with me that that mathematics is a universal constant?
It is. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So then you would have to agree that universally, whatever mathematic expression you had, in the case that I would point to would be logic as a mathematical expression. Regardless of the language, propositional logic is going to be the same. There's no choice because what the hell is in the background?
You're so used to that. Stop it. You know that's always there. I'll turn it down another notch for you.
That's the most distracting shit ever. So anyway, in any language, this universal expression should be able to be expressed. I want to know why in Gematria you focus on English. Let's start with that.
Again, I was looking at this within the context of English because naturally that's the language I speak. We are in the United States of America where it's the dominant language. And I was trying to understand what I was seeing for over a decade with regards to numbers being used in ritual and big news stories and sports games, seemingly numbers being inserted into news articles that just didn't need to be there. They didn't really add any meaning to the story. It almost seemed like they were placed there ritualistically, the same number used multiple times in a story.
What kind of numbers?
Honestly, the number that I saw the most in the news that was unexplained to me for the longest time was 47. I said, it seems that they like to put the number 47 in news stories an awful lot. And lo and behold, there is a reason for that.
Okay, so you have a newspaper clipping handy by chance of this number so I can see it in its context?
Well, I mean, if you followed my work, I often bring up the ritualism of 47 in the news. I don't have an example right here in front of me at this moment, but for anyone who's followed my work, it's a very recurring pattern.
Okay.
And just for the record, in Gematria, news happens to equate to 47. I didn't know that for the first 13 years of trying to figure out why that number was so omnipresent in stories.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. You were explaining why in English, why you do this in English.
Okay, so again, I saw a correlation with this seemingly happening in our country, and I was trying to figure out what it could be about numbers and ritualism. And through my research, I discovered that numbers are important to Masonry. They like to etch on the temple all is number, the Pythagoras quote. Of course, Pythagoras, a Greek. Some people say he's the first Freemason. The New Testament. The entire Bible is really a book full of numbers. Of course, the fourth book in the Bible is titled Numbers. From learning about Freemasonry, I learned it was based in Kabbalah. Within Kabbalah is where the study of letters and numbers comes from. The physical model for Kabbalah is the tree of life, which is mentioned in Genesis 3:2:2. And the tree of life has 3 pillars and 22 paths. It talks about knowing good and evil. If you look into Kabbalah in the Tree of Life, there is a normal study, which is about relationship with Creator and the world that you exist within. And there's also something known as the evil half of Kabbalah, which is known as the Clipoth. And for the record, in that same cipher where, the VACCINATION word is 666, so is Clipoth. Seemingly not arbitrarily. The word witchcraft also has the 666 value. It makes you think about how spells has to do with magic, as well as the creation of words, spells, spelling. And if you look into the Clipoth, it is about using this Kabbalistic knowledge to have influence over somebody. And seemingly it seems that is what's being done with this knowledge. But as for English, again, in my studies, I noticed that at the end of the 16th century, that's when English was standardized with the 26-letter alphabet. And that is also when the Gregorian calendar was implemented by the Jesuit priest Christopher Clavius. In fact, today is the anniversary of the Gregorian calendar being implemented. It happened in history on February 24th. And ultimately, that's where my research has led me to, that it's the Jesuits who created this system with the calendar and the language and seemingly used the Bible like a playbook, as we'll get to. And it
like
is
Club of Rome stuff, you mean?
Go ahead.
Club of Rome stuff.
Club of Rome established April 7th, 68, 3 days after the assassination of
I'm
Martin
very,
Luther
very familiar
Jr.
with the Club of Rome theory. So anyway, there's holes in that, and we can get to that too. But just very quickly, do you realize that the number one number which is found in newspapers is 10, not 47? It's the most recurring number in newspapers is 10 because of top 10 listings, top 10 this, top 10 that. I'm not even sure that 47 is in the top 10 of the most recurring numbers inside of newspapers. It seems like you're taking that number specifically because you can tie it in with other things that also in some way loosely correlate to 47. Here's how I can demonstrate this for you. Do you have the Gematrinator? Do you believe that the Gematrinator actually, if we feed it various words, can gematrinate their meaning for us?
How exactly do you mean that?
Well, like for instance, if you were to take, you're talking about the jabby stabby, and you keep on saying that it's 666 is tied into the jabby stabby, right?
It is.
Yeah, but I think that what's going on is that you're taking a loose correlation of opposite events, and I could take an equal amount of correlated opposite events and come up with a wildly different number than 666. And I don't know how you could falsify that.
Well, you can try and make your point, and then I'll give you my rebuttal if you'd like to do that.
Yeah, so anything which you come up with to reach the number 666 when it comes to the jabby stabby is going to be loosely correlated events which come up with a word by your definition that's going to equal this number. But what you have to do is you have to take a series of events which fit X, X other event to come up with this word to confirm your bias. What I'm saying is that I can equally take that, put it in the Gematrination machine, which I have up now and I'll put in front of my audience, and prove to them and demonstrate to them that I can come up with a completely different number than 666. So can you tell me how you came up with 666?
Again, the cipher where VACCINATION equates to 666 is known as Sumerian Gematria or Gematria. It's just where the alphabetic order is counted by 6. A is 6, B is 12, C is 18, D is 24. Is
it the actual word vaccine?
Say that again?
Is it the actual word vaccine that equals 666?
Well, again, I'm spelling out loud. VACCINATION.
Ah, I see. Now, are there other words that equal 666?
Of course there are.
How many?
That's a good question, but
you don't know?
Let me make a point real quick, Andrew.
wait, hang on, back up.
Go ahead, and then I'll make my point.
It's pretty important for you to know how many other words would equal 666. As after all, there could be other words which are non-nefarious whatsoever that would equal 666. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree.
Yeah. So why is it that we should put value on this one word? Like, for instance, why would it need to say shun? Why couldn't it just say een? Why couldn't it be ine instead of tion? Why not? Why does that not equal 666? It sounds like selection bias, right?
Well, again, we can get into the ciphers and the other variations of the word vaccine and where this all ties together. But to make a point about 666 and also the date that the simulation happened in light of the Christian lens, again, for anyone who wants to look this up, CladeX was the first simulation of 2 simulations about the C-19 pandemic. And again, the first simulation was May 15th, 2018, exactly 666 days before the pandemic was declared on March 11th, 2020. Now, the thing about May 15th is the majority of the world writes that date 15/5 like 155. If you just take the most simple cipher, the alphabetic order, and you spell out the actual name of the virus, CORONA, virus, spell that word out, it equates to 155. In the same simple cipher, Christianity equates to 155. Now, in Sumerian Gematria, where you multiply times 6, they both equate to 930. And Andrew, why would 930 be interesting in light of Christianity?
Well, hang on. Before we get into that.
Oh, hold on. No, let me finish my point if you don't know the answer.
Well, you just asked me a question.
Right. I'd like you to answer the question.
I have no idea. Why would 930 be relevant to Christianity?
In Protestant Bibles, the Christian section begins with Matthew 1:1, which is the 930th chapter of the Bible.
Okay.
The 930th chapter is where the Christian section begins. Mm-hmm. And again, what is the first book of the Bible called?
Genesis.
That's true in the Old Testament. Excuse me. What's the first book of the New Testament called?
What's it called?
Matthew.
Okay.
Matthew, but you hear the word math in it. And how does Matthew begin?
How does it begin?
It begins with the 42 generations to Jesus, correct?
Well, let's take a look and see if that's how Matthew begins.
Well, I thought you would know as a Christian. Matthew does begin with the first 42 generations to Jesus.
Let's pull it up. See, you have to be very specific here, right?
And
I just want to make sure that what you're saying to me is actually true. So just hang tight. We'll pull it
While
up.
he's looking that up, also, I let him get away with his little cheap shot about things we've gotten wrong. You guys should look into the resume of the things we've gotten right. It's unprecedented and it's undeniable. And we can come back to what he brought up in the beginning because it also wasn't quite accurate what he said. But if you're going to try and discredit my work based on a few things we got wrong in the early days of the research, you should take
now, hang on. I just want to make sure
track record over the last 11 years.
The book of So let's go back. The book of Matthew, right, starts with the words, "This is genealogy of Jesus, Messiah, son of David, son of Abraham." Why is that relevant to this?
I'm making the point about why the New Testament begins with the 42 generations to Jesus. Again, the Bible is a book of numbers.
Okay.
And Matthew, you hear it in the name, the word math.
Uh-huh.
So for your audience who's not familiar with
Wait a minute. The word math is in the word Matthew, and you think that has relevance?
Well, I'm going to make a point how it clearly does.
Okay, go ahead.
Again, the 4 base ciphers of the English language. I learned this from Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages, published in 1926.
Yeah, Manly C. Hall, the occultist, right?
P.
Hall, sorry, the occultist.
He wrote a lot about the occult.
He was an occultist, yeah.
Sure.
And a demon summoner.
Pulled over by the occult.
Yeah, no, he was an occultist himself.
That's also true, but I think he was trying to shed light on the fact that the occult is what controls the nation.
Can I ask?
Okay. So anyway,
like it's not the word math, right? It's M-A-T-T-H.
Right.
Right.
Would you acknowledge that? Would you disagree that the pronunciation has the word math in it?
Sure. So it has math in it. Go ahead.
I'm going to make the point. So the 4 base ciphers of the English language are the alphabetic order. A is 1 up to Z is 26. The reverse alphabetic order, Z is 1 back to A is 26. And both orders with numerology applied. So there's 4 base ciphers. So if you have a word value, you'll get 4 numerical values. And these systems are related. And it does seem that there's something to all 4 values. For example, Barack Hussein Obama, if you take the value of his name in all 4 ciphers and add the 4 together, the 4 values equate to 666. It's interesting because the day he was called president-elect, the pick 3 in Chicago, their little lottery, the pick 3 that day was 666. And his birthday is the 216th day of the year, where 6 times 6 times 6 is 216. But coming back to the Matthew part, the word math with the alphabetic order is 42. With the reverse alphabetic order, the word math is 66. Protestant Bibles end with the 66th book. The word New Testament, or the words New Testament, with the alphabetic order and numerology, New Testament is 42. With the reverse alphabetic order and numerology, New Testament is 66. The word new also has the 42 connection. We can come back to the 42, but the point I'm making is, and just for the record, Matthew equates to 27, like there's 27 books in the New Testament.
Yeah, but how come we don't? Yeah, so how come you're using for this 66 books instead of 27 books?
Well, there's 66 books in the whole Bible. There's
but there's 26. There's 27 books in the New Testament.
Correct, Matthew.
So how come? So how come we side with 66 over 27?
Well, I'm just looking at the complete Protestant Bible.
Yeah, but why?
Because that's the way the book is.
Yeah, but why are you looking at that is my question. So again, it sounds to me like you're tying unrelated facts together for no particularly good reason. What is the relevancy of the Bible itself the Protestant Bible having 66 books? How is that actually relevant? Why shouldn't we instead say, no, the Protestant Bible has 27 books, and then the Old Testament has X amount of books, and then we decipher it that way rather than using 66?
It is one complete text. I mean, it's hard to get a Bible that's just the New Testament. I have
no,
a
King
isn't. James version right here.
Yeah, it's not hard to get
James.
A Bible that's just the New Testament. That's not true. One,
just
and two.
For the record about what I'm saying, again, the King James Bible.
Why do we go? Please answer my question. This is my question. I'm going to repeat it for you. Why is it that when you put the cipher together, you don't go with the 27 books of the New Testament instead of going with the 66 books total? Why instead go with the 66? How did you come to the realization you should go with 66 instead of 27?
If you can give me a minute here to answer your question and put it together, I just want you to see how it's all connected. So I'm sure you're aware of the star athlete who's known as King James, correct? LeBron James played for the Cavaliers. Cavaliers in history named after King Charles, who was the son of King James. LeBron, when he won his first NBA Finals,
I've never heard anybody call LeBron James King James, dude. Ever.
That's his nickname, King James. He won the only final for the Cavs on the real King James's birthday, June 19th.
So I don't watch sports. You could be right about this, that his nickname is King James, right? You could be, and I could just not.
Please just listen.
Hang on. It's really important that we go through this an item at a time, because you do like to do this thing, sir, and you can't say I haven't given you plenty of speaking time. But I actually really do need you to concisely tie these points together for the purpose of the debate, or we can't get anywhere.
I'm going to
do it concisely, please. Go ahead.
I'm going to, because what people need to understand about my work is I'm showing how these people use the Bible as a playbook in ritualism, from the news, like a Scandemic, to your rigged sports leagues, to a 9/11, for example, where the Tower of Babel story ends in Genesis 11:9.
Just please answer the question. That's all I'm looking for. Just looking for the answer to the question.
King James was born in 1566, okay?
Okay.
LeBron equals 66. LeBron James also equals 66. The first time LeBron won a finals, they just happened to shorten that season to 66 games. Just so happened to be that way. The first time that King James wins the finals. And of course, they do call him King James. I'm sorry you don't know that. His first ever NBA game was against the Kings.
Yeah, but they also call him the Akron Hammer and the L Train. Why don't you go with those?
All of these things do apply. I can come back to that. He was born in Akron along with.
How does the L Train translate over to being tied into King James, though?
Just let me finish this point about 66 and 27.
Mm-hmm.
When he won the finals for the Cavs on the real King James's birthday, June 19th, 2016. That was LeBron's it was the Cavaliers' 103rd game of the season, which is the 27th prime number. LeBron scored 27 in the game, and 27 days later, his father died, who was Nate Thurmond, who was born in Akron along with him and Steph Curry. And Stephen, if you look up what the meaning of that name, it means crown, which fits in with the king. Also, if you look what happened before LeBron won that game, the actor Anton Yelchin died at 27. And if you look at the day he was born, the date of numerology for his birth was also 103. Again, the point I'm making, which might seem a little bit complicated, is these people do perform wicked rituals, and they do use these numbers.
Can you please explain to me why you went with the number 66 for the tie-in for this instead of the number 27?
Well, I'm showing you how they use 66 and 27.
I don't care why they use 66 or 27. Can you repeat my question to me so I know you understand it?
You're asking me why would I look at 66, the whole length of the Bible, versus 27, which is the books in the New Testament.
Why? So can you answer that question?
Because both numbers apply to the book, clearly.
There's but why? Yeah, okay.
Section.
Okay, but do you agree that some parts of the Bible, for instance, could just have certain things which are relationary chapter by chapter? Why not calculate all the chapters, for instance, and use that instead of using the total amount of books? Why is it that you use you use the totality, you say 66, or then you say 27? Why not calculate it chapter by chapter instead? Or how about a calculation of every single word that's printed in there? Or how about the calculation of every single word that's printed in there in Old English versus the new English version? Why not utilize those things instead of this? The reason I'm asking the question of why you use this as the foundation is so that I can make a determination as to whether there's good reasoning behind why you actually did that, or if you're just utilizing it so that you can correlate it with other loosely correlated facts, many of them not even correlated, in order for you to affirm your bias. So why did you go with that specifically? Why?
Because they are pertinent numbers to the book. And for anyone who knows about the Bible, the New Testament is based in the Old Testament, including Revelation being entirely based on what's in the Old Testament. And just for the record,
that doesn't answer the question, dude. That doesn't tell me why you're using that. So the foundation for this, you start with this, right? It's interesting that the Bible has 66 books. The Protestant Bible has 66 books. Why is that interesting? Well, it's interesting because of these other loosely correlated facts that I can calculate out to 66. But we haven't answered the question as to why it is that the Bible having 66 books has any fucking relevancy to anything in the first place, other than you want it to.
Well, 66 is the 11th triangular number. And in numerology, 11 is the master number. And just for the record, your spiritual figure, Jesus, which is not his traditional name, it's the newer, more invented English name, Jesus has 11 encoded in it. And for the record, Revelation equates to 121, which has a square root of 11. So a major emphasis on 11 in the spiritual figure of the New Testament, the 66th book.
It's not answering my question of why you're using the Bible as a foundation of 66 books to begin with. Why?
Because that's how many books it is. And
that doesn't mean anything. It's like me saying this, okay? So if I were to say to you, there are 20 cigarettes in a pack, right? There's 20 cigarettes in a pack. And if I add that 20 cigarettes in a pack to the 12 beers that are in this 12 pack of beers, I get this number. And that's correlated with blah, 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 blah. That's all well and good. But why did I start with using the cigarettes in the pack to begin with? Why? That's my question to you. Foundationally, why are you starting with this at all?
So for people who do not understand where this knowledge comes from, it is pertaining to the Bible. Traditionally, this study relates to the Hebrew alphabet and the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. It's very obvious that as time went on and this knowledge spread, for anyone who looks into the Templars, the story is that they brought back this knowledge from the Holy Lands after the Crusades and brought it to the church. It appears that the English language, along with the calendar, was a newer invention of this system, truly a system put in place, and seemingly for world domination, because this code traces all through history from the end of the.
Why are we starting with the Protestant 66 books of the Protestant Bible? Why are we starting with that as a baseline to build these numbers up to begin with? Why?
Again, I'm answering why the Protestants were given this 66 book Bible.
I don't care why they were given it. That's not my question. My question, I will assume God himself came down and gave it to them. He handed it to them on a silver platter.
With regards to the King James Version,
why for the purpose of the mathematical breakdown in this numerological set, and we're going to consider this a set being X amount of correlated pieces equal X number, and the X number is then the thing that we're after. That's what we're solving for. But we have to have a reason to start with numero uno, the first thing that we start with, right? So if I'm going to calculate 1 + 1, for instance, to equal 2, I have to start with a reason to count 1, right? There has to be some reason for me counting 1. What is the reason we're starting foundationally with the 66 books of the Bible in order to draw these correlations to begin with? Why?
Again, I think I'm explaining it. I think it's you who's not grasping it.
Use really small words.
Huh?
Use really small words.
Okay. Numerology is central to the Bible. It is central to Kabbalah. This seems to be overlooked by many people who read through the Bible and do not question what all of the numbers inserted in there mean. Were you not once a child like I was, Andrew, coming up in the church in Sunday school and reading these verses and asking, why are these numbers in there? Did that ever?
No, I was born an adult-based conservative, ready to have sex with my wife right out of the womb, sir.
Honestly, Andrew, you claim to be Christian. Mm-hmm. Did you not read the Bible as a child and wonder what it was about the numbers?
No, I didn't think too much about the numbers, but they just seemed like they were chapter indicators, right?
Have you read the Bible?
Yeah.
There's a lot of specific numbers in the verses that go without.
Yeah, but those numbers, and most of the time, these numbers pertain to something which is relevant that we're talking about, right? So same thing with genealogy. You can calculate genealogies to X number of years. You can do this in Genesis with the line of Adam, for instance, and you come up with the X amount of years it took to get to Moses, et cetera, et cetera. The problem is that is tying something to something else. So we have reason to do this. We're solving for something, right? We're trying to determine how many years between Adam and this person was it? How many years between Adam and this person was it? Perhaps you could use that to calculate the age of the earth or the age of creation. There could be many various reasons why you'd want to focus on these various genealogies, though in Timothy it does say not to focus on endless genealogies, I believe. But the thing is that aside, it pertains to a reason for us to do the thing. What I'm asking you is a basic foundational question, which is, what is the reason we start with this base other than just because you fucking want to?
Again, it's not because it's what I want to. It's about observing the numbers that exist in this text and trying to understand why. 6 is a recurring number from the beginning of the Bible. For the record, in the Sumerian cipher, Genesis also equates to 666. And I'm sure you're aware that man is made on the 6th day.
I can grant it that any number of numeric calculations that you come up with as just being true. However, this does not answer my foundational question as to why it is we're going to start with the Bible to begin with. Why? Why do we start with that to begin with? This Protestant Bible, 66 books. Please answer my question. Why are we starting with that? Why?
Is the King James Version not the most recognized version of the Bible in the English-speaking world?
Yeah, that doesn't give us a cause for why we would start with that.
Okay, if you look into the King James Version, they say Francis Bacon was one of the key writers for it. He was into this study of letters and numbers. John Dee, the occultist, who was also into the study of letters and numbers, helped with the King James Bible.
First of all, John Dee was an Enochian occultist. Okay. And the thing about Enochian occultists is that they also are all fucking numerologists. And they like to fool the kings that they work for, like John Dee did, by coming up with false Enochian linguistics, completely made up, false, non-testable Enochian linguistics. To this day, they can't be tested because they were all false. And he was able to trick the court that he was working for, John Dee was. So the thing is like, that's not good evidence of anything, especially not Enochian text. That aside, leaving that portion of the occultism aside, John Dee did the same exact thing. He said, foundationally, we need to start with this portion of the Bible in order to decode what angelic speech is, what Enochian speech actually is. He never gave a fucking reason why, though. And so the thing is I'm asking you the same question nobody ever asked him. Why are we supposed to start with a baseline of 66 books from the Protestant Bible in order for us to do these calculations based on that as our foundation? Why are we using that as our foundation? Please answer my question.
Well, you constantly interrupt, first of all.
Dude, do you really think that I've interrupted you?
You didn't even let me get to the
dude, you have been going and going, and I've been gracious in letting you go and go. I've barely spoken this entire debate. For me to cut in certain times so that you don't continue to filibuster, so I can get the answer to my question, is totally appropriate. I've been nothing but respectful. I haven't bulldozed you at all, which I could. I haven't done that at all. I've been graciously allowing you to try to answer this question. But please concisely just answer this. Why, sir? Why are we starting with the 66 books of the Protestant Bible as a baseline to make any other calculation? Why?
Again, I talked to the point of this subject is this knowledge useful? And it absolutely is. Understanding that these people are using the Bible as a playbook and largely the King James Version because of the occultists who are tied to it from the beginning. See, you're trying to downplay because you're like, I don't care what they said. That's your perspective.
I haven't downplayed anything.
Again, hush.
What did I downplay?
Hush, please. 6 from the beginning.
You're not answering my question, dude.
Andrew, in what verse does God regret making mankind?
What verse?
In what verse does God regret making
No
mankind?
idea. What verse?
In the beginning of the Bible.
Okay. What verse?
Genesis 6:6 is where it begins that God regrets.
Yeah. What
mankind.
verse?
Huh?
What verse?
I just answered what verse.
What is it? Genesis 6:6? Are you sure?
Yeah.
That's what he said,
Are
Genesis.
you sure that's the verse?
Yeah.
Are you positive?
In Genesis 6:6, God expresses that he regrets making mankind.
Okay. Go ahead.
The point is 6 is recurring throughout the book. I told you 66 is the 11th triangular number. Maybe you didn't understand what that meant. 11 is the master number in numerology. It's a rep digit of 1, like 66 and 666 are a rep digit of 6. Numerology.
Okay. Why are we starting with the Bible for any of this? Why?
Because that's where the knowledge originates from.
So the Bible is the source of all knowledge.
I didn't say that that is necessarily true, but the
Well,
source
what is
of
the source of all
ritual-
knowledge? What is the source of all knowledge?
I don't know if there's one source of all knowledge.
Then why are we starting with this Bible?
Because the people who rule this nation, rule this world, which is the church, they use it ritualistically in a mocking fashion.
Wait, what? Say that again? I just want to make sure I got that right. What?
They use the knowledge of the book
Uh-huh.
like a football coach uses a playbook.
Uh-huh.
Again, look at 9/11. The majority of the world writes that date 11/9. The story of the Tower of Babel ends in Genesis 11:9. And
Okay.
just for the record, this cipher where you multiply the alphabetic order times 6, Genesis has the 666 connection, as does New
This
York.
doesn't answer the question still.
Hold on. I want to come back to how you were trying to downplay what I was saying about the pandemic being simulated 666 days before it was declared. So
yeah, I actually have
hold
that
on.
information in front of me here. You said it was from let me just make sure I got this right. What was the organization you said again? I just want to make sure I got it right. What was it? What was the organization?
Are you talking about the Claydex simulation?
Yeah, the Claydex simulation. And
There
sir,
were multiple participants,
Yeah.
including all the same ones that were involved in event 2.
you had a problem with your claim there, though. Do you know what it was?
There is no problem with the claim.
Well, here's the problem with the claim. The Claydex simulation, I do have it in front of me. You are correct. John Hopkins Center for Health Security hosted a Claydex pandemic tabletop exercise May 15, 2018, Washington, D.C. The purpose of the exercise was to illustrate high-level strategic decisions and policies the United States and the world will need to pursue in order to prevent a pandemic or diminish its consequences. The problem is that there was many other corporations long before Claydex who ran pandemic simulations inside of the United States. You claim that this is the first one. That is key to
I did not say it was the first one.
Not only did you
Hold
said
on,
that
no,
was the
sorry.
first simulation run. Hang on. I have the
You're
note.
wrong, though,
I'm taking,
Andrew.
bro.
You're
I have
wrong.
taken the notes.
You're wrong.
Let
Okay,
him
hang on.
finish,
Calm
Zach.
down.
Andrew, there are no
Calm
other
down.
simulations
Calm down. You can
in
respond, dude.
event
Just
1.
calm down. Calm down.
Hold on,
What you're
Zach. Let
saying
him
is wrong.
finish.
Chill out.
Well, he's reading a source, so let him finish reading the
Okay,
source,
then
and
I'll
then
bring
you
it up.
can
You
rebut.
are wrong.
You said that this was the first simulation
I
that
did
was
not say it
run.
was first.
Okay, then let's go through it again. So Claydex runs this simulation, which has what bearing on what?
Claydex and Event 201 were sister simulations. They were unique in the way they were done. Anyone can still watch the broadcast. There were no other simulations done like this. They have the same, for people who have not watched it, they present it like it's the news, like you're watching CNN. They have the same news anchor. These are sister-related simulations, okay? But I want to come back to the point about what
What does
you're
that have to
downplaying.
do with the calculations, though?
Hold on. The face of the opposition in the time of the pandemic was Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's recently been sworn in as the Secretary of Health. And I want you to understand how these things are related. If by chance, did you watch any of his confirmation hearings?
Of course, watch them live.
Okay. So would you agree that the major focus was on his history of being an anti-vaxxer?
Some of it, yes, and others.
It was the major focus, including all the news.
No, I would say that the major focus from the progressives in that panel was on whether or not he was taking money from various corporations when he was engaged in lawsuits against those corporations for the purposes of health.
Well,
So
that
I
was
would
what
say
Elizabeth Warren brought up in one part of the testimony where almost everybody
no,
else
Bernie.
is
No,
anti-vax.
here's the thing, right? All of them had a different variety of questioning him along those same exact basis of essentially calling him a crook. While I will agree with you that there was a lot of pandemic testimony and his anti-jabby stabby, I concede that that's true. I don't think that was the only focus. No.
Okay. I didn't say it was the only. I said it was the main focus, and it absolutely was for anyone who watched.
Okay.
So here's what's interesting. From the day that he gave his speech about why he was running for president, which was April 19th, 2023, Ignatius of Loyola Day, a recurring day of tragedy in this nation's history. RFK Jr. is Jesuit educated, having gone to Georgetown Prep. It's also why he had his lockdown rally in DC on Georgetown's birthday, which went over almost everybody's head. Again, if you're new here, I show how all of this traces back to the Jesuits. But again, from the day that he gave his speech about why he's running to the day that he was confirmed as the Secretary of Health was 666 days later. And again, the big concern is him being Mr. Anti-vaccine.
Okay, well, hang on. Let's take this a claim. Hang on. Let's take it a claim at a time. Let's just make sure that that's correct.
It is correct. Please.
So how many days? Okay, so when do you believe that he started running for this position that he never ran for? Because it's not a position you run for.
He gave his.
You don't run for the Secretary of Health, just so you know.
2023.
Okay, hang on. Stop. When?
April 19th, 2023.
And what did he do on April 19th, 2023?
That was the day he gave his speech about why he was running.
Okay.
Okay. From that day to the day.
Hang on.
Officially.
Hang on. He's not, by the way, I'm sorry. Do you run for that position?
What do you mean? You run for that?
Do you run for that position? Is that a position you run for?
He announced.
Are you elected to that position?
He announced why he was running for president.
Right. But there was discussions. He was approached with this multiple days before he ever made this announcement. Why don't we go with that date?
I'm going to
because then it wouldn't equal 666, would it?
Again, I will bring it all together for you.
Hey, just tell me, hang on, listen. I don't need you to go on a wild diatribe. I want you to specifically answer the questions I asked you, please. Why, sir, didn't you go with the multitude of weeks before when he was approached by President Trump's team to take this position? Why would we not use that as the starting date rather than the speech when he made the announcement? Can you explain that to me?
I can bring that piece in. Absolutely. But let's go through the full thing here. Okay. So 666 days from his speech for why he's running to the day that he becomes the health secretary.
He didn't run, sir. He didn't run.
The day he announced he was running for president.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about who now?
RFK Jr.
You're talking about RFK Jr. running for president?
He announced he was running on April 19th, 2023.
Oh, you mean for president?
Yes.
Okay, I thought you were talking about health secretary.
And for the record, that date had 66 numerology, like number of the beast equals 66, like New Testament equals 66, like math equals 66. Math's also 42, like New Testament, like the beast rules for 42 months, like the word vaccine equals 42, like Jesuit equates to 42. Coming back, though, listen and follow the thought.
Okay.
If you go back and look, RFK Jr. put out a video last year on social media, July 2nd, 2024. RFK Jr. the Snake is what the video's titled that he put out. His testimony or his hearing began the first day of the year of the snake, January 29th. And of course, the snake is associated with Satan, the serpent.
Stop, dude. Stop. Please answer my question. I'm going to ask it again. Why is it that in order to equal 666 days, you're talking about RFK being the health secretary to reach the number 666? Yes or no, please? Yes or no?
Okay.
Stop, bro. From the day he made this speech to the day he became health secretary, that's where you came up with the number 666, right? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Thank you. So, okay. Great. Yes. Great. So we're on the same page. You went off on presidency and other things. So 666 days. Why are we going with the day he makes the speech rather than the day he's approached for the position? Can you please answer that question now? Don't talk about tying it into other. Stop.
I can answer your question.
Finish, bro. Let me finish. I haven't finished asking. I don't want you to try to tie it into a bunch of other shit. I want you to simply state for me why it is that you go with that day instead of when he's approached to it, other than because if you went with the day he was approached, it wouldn't equal 666. What would the reasoning for that possibly be?
Okay, so the day that him and Trump linked up was August 23rd, 2024. And I can get to why it was that day, but where it fits in with this number of the beast thing is that was the day that he ended his campaign, joined forces with Trump. And that's where the talk began of him, getting a position within the administration, hopefully having something to do with what his focus has been in recent years.
What day? What day was this?
Huh?
What day was this?
RFK Jr. dropped out of the race and endorsed Trump Friday, August 23rd, 2024.
Okay. And if we go ahead from August 23rd, 2024 to when he was confirmed as the health secretary
on February 13th.
How many days was that?
That was 174 days later. And here's where this gets interesting. If you write out number of the beast, that has a Gematria value of 174. If you apply numerology,
how are we getting to 666?
Huh?
From how do we get to the number of 666 from the speech, the day of the speech, to the day he's confirmed as health secretary, instead of again going with the few days before or the weeks before when he was actually approached with the position? Can you explain that, please?
I'm showing you how the whole thing fits together.
It doesn't matter how it fits together. It only fits together if we grant the original link of how we got to 666 to begin with. Otherwise, it doesn't fit together. So the thing is again, hang on. I'm not going to grant your presupposition that this is true. I, in fact, dispute that it was 666 days because I would prefer to go with the 10 days before when he was approached or the 20 days before when he was approached. Why would I be wrong to do that? Why?
The day that goes down is the day that he announced his candidacy for president was April 19th, 2023, when he gave his speech about why he was running. And one of his key reasons he expressed was because he wanted to change the nation's health.
Yeah, but why would I be wrong in going with a different day that happened before when he was approached for such a position?
Okay, so here, to entertain your idea and show you how all these things fit together.
It doesn't matter. Stop. Listen, I need you to understand why it is that it's irrelevant how these puzzle pieces fit together if the supposition of piece A, right, doesn't fit to begin with. This means that every other supposition you make off of your first supposition doesn't fit already. So we're going to take this line by line to see if any of these fit to begin with. First and foremost, how do we get to 666 days? Please answer that question. Let's start with that again.
And running in for this race for a place in federal office to the day that he was appointed to a place in the federal office was exactly 666 days later.
Yeah, okay. But it was also the start of the American Revolution, Waco siege, Oklahoma City bombing, all sorts of different things, right? Because every day on the calendar actually has some significance. If you want to look at it that way. But also, again, why should we go with the day that he announced instead of the previous days where he was approached? For instance, let's see if we can find out when was RFK approached for the Secretary of Health position.
Andrew, I know what day he filed his paperwork to run.
Yeah, but what day was he approached? What day was he approached? What day was he approached?
Part of the record. There's the day he filed his paperwork. There's the day
you can safely assume that he was approached for said position before he announced that he was going to take on said position, right? That's a safe assumption.
Is that part of the public record?
Is it even if it wasn't? Wouldn't it be like, I wouldn't go to you and say, hey, man, you want to be the Secretary of Health? And then you would go fucking announce it the same day. That's not how that would work. You would be approached for it. There'd be a vetting process. There'd be a negotiation. There'd be talks. Why don't we go with that first?
Okay. Again, if you want to understand the ritualism of everything they're doing,
then we need to start with concise facts. And we need to start with
the concise facts.
We need to start with hang on. We need to start with why we have these arbitrary.
Dude, please. You don't have any information. All you bring out is
hold on, gentlemen.
Arbitrary starting points. These are arbitrary.
They're not arbitrary starting points.
Then why are we starting with that? What is the actual reason we're starting with it? Yeah, but why is that significantly? Why is that more significantly relevant than the day he was approached for the position? Why is that more significant?
Andrew, let me make points, and you're allowed to rebut them and try to dismiss them. Again, you go.
I think Zach, what he's looking for.
I mean, this is dumb.
Zach, I think what he's looking for is kind of the why. Like you have a baseline, but the question is why. Like for instance, if you're doing math, you're given a given, right? Why is that a given? And there's actual reasons why we have givens in math. You know, if you're doing geometry, so on and so forth.
Right.
So
And I think anyone can
I think
understand
that's
that if
I
RFK
think
Jr. began his race on this date, that's why we're measuring from that date. I think that's
Why-
very
yeah, no. See that. So now we're getting somewhere. When you say RFK started his race for what?
federal office to be president of the United States.
Okay. I'm sorry. We keep speaking past each other then. Okay. So I just did ask you for clarification on this. The clarification on this was I asked you, are you saying that there was a day where he made a speech and that speech was tied into him to be becoming the health secretary? And you said yes. And that's how you ended up with the number 666. Is that now not true?
Again, I'm making the point of when his federal race began to when he got his federal position, which was different than what he set out for, but related, and how it was exactly 666 days later. And again, a point I'd like to make is he's part of the administration of number 47, something we called out that would happen 4 years before it did, why Trump would win this election. Beast equates to 47 like Trump, and he does run on the highest degree of the Church of Satan. Now, please let me make the point. Again, you're trying to downplay these things. For you guys to understand how connected all this stuff is, the day that RFK Jr. dropped out and endorsed Trump, that was the 220th day of RFK Jr.'s age. Donald John Trump equals 220, like how Inauguration Day is 220 days after his birthday. And the official title of RFK Jr.'s position is Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, which equals 220. Not to mention there's 220 Republicans in the House, giving them the majority in the House.
Okay.
You learn this code.
Yeah, great. Can we?
You can see through how.
So we're not talking past each other. Can I just get this clarified so that I understand the actual position, right? Because I'm not even sure right now I even actually understand it. Okay. I think maybe we're speaking past each other. Maybe that's an actual problem happening right now. How do we get to the number 666? Is that when RFK is announcing he's running for president to the day that he becomes health secretary? Or is that the day that he gives a speech on becoming a health secretary until the day he becomes health secretary?
I don't know how many times I have to answer the question, Andrew. This is wasting time. There's so much.
I just want to make sure I'm clarified on this.
1,000 times, Andrew. He
Tell me
announced
again.
running for president on April 19th, officially putting his hat in the federal race.
Okay.
666 days later, he gets a federal position based on this.
Okay. I understand. Got it. Got it.
I want to make a more important point because this is about the jab. And again,
go ahead.
It saved a lot of people's lives, which is valuable. RFK Jr. put out a video called RFK Jr. the Snake on July 2nd last year, something anybody can look up on 7/2. And the thing about jabs is the schedule, which has been for more than a decade, is by the time you're age 18, you now get 72 jabs. 72, which isn't an arbitrary number. It's a number that's related to Kabbalah and the Goetia. There's 72 names of God in Kabbalah.
How many jabs for what?
Huh?
How many jabs for what?
If you're a child coming up, there's 72 recommended jabs by the time you're 18 years old.
Okay, go ahead.
So again, this 72 number is related to that. RFK Jr. again on 7/2 puts out the video RFK Jr. the Snake. I'm sure you know how the medical world is associated with their symbol, the caduceus, which I often pronounce wrong, but it has the snake around the staff. Interestingly enough, in Gematria, RFK Jr. equates to 72. Year of the Snake equates to 72. His hearing began on the first day of the Year of the Snake. Jesuit order.
Can we start with this, though? The recommended amount of vaccines until you're 18. Where are you getting the number 72?
That is, if you watch the testimony, it even came up. They brought up how the schedule of 72. That's what the schedule is.
Can you just tell me what the source for that is so I can look it up real quick?
Anyone can look it up right now.
I have the record. I have the record. Listen, dude, calm down. I'm just going through each claim like I would with any debater I was debating with. When you shotgun tons and tons of claims, it actually is confusing. So I'm trying to break them all down one at a time. So let's start with this. Where do you get the source that the recommended amount of vaccines for a human being till the age of 18 is 72? Can you just tell me what the source for that is?
The CDC. It's
Okay.
right on their website.
Okay, where on their website? What's the subcategory breakdown, real quick? Just real quick, so I can pull it up. So we're following along.
Andrew, it's not that hard.
Do you have it in front of you?
Here, just type into Google these words. These are the words for a web search. 72 vaccines schedule, and see what pops up. It'll be the CDC with the AI overview right at the top. Should be easy.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, now 72 is not an arbitrary number. There's a reason we got the first.
I actually don't see this from the CDC here. Just so you know, that's not actually what I see. So I want to make sure that we're on the same page, that I can confirm that there's supposed to be 72 vaccines by the time you're 18 years old. And I actually can't find that information. I would like to real quick before we move on.
Well, you can search for it and do a debate rebuttal if you think it's wrong. It's not.
So I pulled it up on my end. So far, I'm seeing not 72. So far, I'm seeing 16 total.
16 is what I keep seeing. Yeah.
Breaks, and that includes the vid vaccine. That word.
Yeah, I'm not actually seeing that. So the thing is again, the entirety of this debate, my argument to you is that we have to base everything on these incorrect presuppositions that you hold in order for your numerology to continue down its path to make falsified claims. So we need to start with each fucking claim and verifying that it's true. And I'm willing to grant that everything you tell me is true if you back it up with a source that I can then verify, and then we can move on to the next claim so that we can get these numbers correct. Where can I find the information that all 18-year-olds ought to have 72 vaccines by the time they're 18? Where can I find it?
Again, you can do a web search. If I'm mistaken, you can say that I take the L in this part of the debate, but that information is out there. It was literally brought up in the hearings with RFK Jr. And I just want people to understand that 72 is not an arbitrary number. Again, it is the Jesuit.
Yes, but now it is an arbitrary number because you just brought it up as being a vaccine protocol, which is what you're basing these other numbers on. And you can't actually demonstrate for us that that is true.
Again, I just told you what to search, and it pulls up right on my end of the thing.
Can you share your screen?
Here. All right, here. Can I share my screen? Let me see.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You got a real deer in the headlights look right now.
It's right
the
up here.
Recommended vaccination schedule for individuals age 72 years and older may depend on individual. Where I don't see any 72 there.
The right thing.
Oh man, this is not looking good for you, Chief. Where can we find the 72? Anywhere? Did you make it up? Maybe
I did not make it up. No.
Where is it?
This is a number that's been brought up countless times, including in the RFK Jr. hearing.
Where is it?
I'll pull it up in the background. Again, my bad.
No, let's pull it up now before we continue so that we can make sure that all of your suppositions based on this number are actually correct, because we're dealing with the right first supposition, which you base all of your other numbers on. So let's take a second.
Not what everything is based on.
I'm sorry. Do you want to have accurate information or not?
I have been presenting accurate information.
If you're presenting accurate information, then let's start with the fact that 72 is a relevant number to this, because that's the vaccine schedule recommended. You can look this up according to you. According to you, you look this up on the CDC, that 72 vaccines are recommended by the time you're 18 years old. I want the fucking proof. Now give it to me.